Last week's opening broadcast of 2022 Season 1 saw high-stakes action around the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. The race was marked by a brilliant battle for the win between Ove Trengerade and Topi Kortenniemi, decided by less than 0.2 of a second at the flag. Will we see more of the same in Week 2 as we trade one legendary circuit for another? We're racing at Suzuka tonight in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi everyone, I'm Maurice Gardner, and with me in the booth is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you know racing, you know Suzuka. Owned by Honda, it's the home of the Japanese Grand Prix, and it's considered one of the world's greatest racetracks. Let's see why with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard?
Oh, what a brilliant circuit, Christian. Suzuka is certainly a track that tests the driver's mettle at the best of times. And, I mean, there's not much more to say about it that hasn't already been said. It's got 18 turns. Every turn flows directly into the next. It's all about momentum around here.
Yeah, absolutely. A very, very difficult track at the best of times. Obviously originally built as a Honda test track back in the 1960s, and we're going to be running 17 laps here today, just over 2 minutes a lap, so actually quite a long race. But there is some good overtaking opportunities here. Obviously down into turn 1 is a great one, but quite tricky actually. Obviously that long sweeping right-hander that tightens up even further, that's quite difficult, especially in this car. It's not the easiest thing in a trail braking situation. Obviously you can also make a pass today into Spoon. 130R isn't really a passing spot, but you can definitely set one up into the last chicane through there.
Absolutely, you can, and if the race at Spa last week was anything to go by, slipstreaming certainly important in this car. It always has been. There's no aerodynamic devices on this Lotus 49 at all. Certainly going to be a fantastic race, and our competitors here will always be looking for more to get out of their cars. Topi Kortenniemi is in the session, and we should see him probably near the top. Of course, he lost out to Mr. Trengerade last week, so he needs to get his title defense back on track here, potentially taking the win here at Suzuka.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's obviously a difficult track to kind of make a defense at and whatnot, but I think qualifying here is really, really important. Obviously, it's important at the best of times with quite short races, but here the field is going to string out very, very quickly. I expect everybody's going to be single file, especially by the time you're at the end of the S's, and obviously if you're starting even towards the back end of the top 10, you're probably already about 6 to 8 seconds behind the leader, so definitely a good qualifying lap is important here, and short time to do it in as well. Obviously only the 8 minutes, and with 2 minutes a lap, it's quite tricky actually to get both of those laps in, and obviously if you make a mistake, then that's going to really compromise your qualifying run.
Yeah, essentially you have to get out there as soon as possible, get your laps out there. But It's certainly going to be a challenge to get a proper time in. You know, this is very much an old school circuit. Yes, it's been updated over the years with tarmac runoffs and the like, but certainly got grass right next to the racing surface in many of these corners. So especially in a car like this, the drivers have to be ultra careful, very smooth on the throttle and the steering, not to mention the brakes. Particularly here at 130R, you have to brake as you see Topi Kortanimi, excuse me, Finnish name pronunciation, not my strong suit, the front end diving down into 130R. I'm wondering if there's going to be any drivers brave enough to try out-braking someone at that corner.
I think if you're alongside someone, it's definitely worth a go, but also that's a pretty kind of unique experience in a modern day sense. There's not many cars now that actually require you to heavily brake for 130R.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, most cars, they only require a lift, if that. Of course, modern Formula 1 cars, 130R doesn't even count as a corner, really. It's just an extension of the back straight. Timo Kagalainen making his way through the S's now on his qualifying lap, just exiting them through Dunlop Curve and coming up to the very challenging Degner Curves. When Suzuka was new, this was one single turn, but changed into two very tight corners now, and you got to be careful of the curbs at the first one of those, the kink. You hit that curb wrong, you're spinning around.
Yeah, absolutely, and if you do kind of get a bad run through the first part, it really sets up kind of a very bad time when you get to the second part as well. Obviously, if you're too much onto that inside curb, it can be helpful for lap time to attack that inside curb, but it can actually throw you really, really far to the outside, and then if you're out near the gravel, then yeah, you're pretty much not making the second part of that corner. So very, very difficult track overall, and it's very uncompromising. I can see why the modern day drivers actually really, really enjoy this track. It's one of the kind of few modern tracks that, well, I would say modern, but remaining Formula 1 tracks out there on the calendar that really has an old school feel to it.
Well, here comes Kagalainen, and really sliding the rear end out on the exit of 130R there, putting the power down with that Cosworth DFV V8. Of course, the Lotus 49, the first car to make use of the DFV, which became the dominant engine in Formula 1 throughout the 1970s, just thanks to its versatility. Coming up to the line, and unfortunately he didn't get a time in on that first lap. He got an off track somewhere along there, but Chris Murakami and then John Olsen are the first times to come in. Timo Vasilkampi going to the top, and then Topi Kortanimi, no surprise there, 2-minute 1.737 up at the top of the timesheets, and that's almost a full second ahead of everyone else. But Togo Hisada has something to say about that, just setting a 2:01.9. Not too bad there.
Yeah, very close. Obviously, the top two drivers significantly clear of the rest of the pack right now, but we'll have to see if the second lap is any better for the rest of the field. Actually, just under half the drivers have not set a valid qualifying lap yet, so it's kind of putting testament to the difficulty of this track.
Yeah, we got two drivers who are still in the pits and haven't set times, and we won't be seeing them setting times. Michael Schindler, Edu Vila, and Pedro Temeladri, currently there in the pit lane at the moment. Let's see if Togo Hisada, the Japanese driver, can improve any at his home track on this series schedule. Kane Lasky, meanwhile, putting himself into third place, and I heard you guys mentioning last week that Kane was a driver you hadn't seen in a while. I could say the same. I raced with him in leagues back in the day, probably around 2009-2010 era, so long time no see, Kane. Good to see you back, and you're certainly looking quick. But Hisada here, coming on the run up to Spoon. Got to get off the throttle very early for this corner. Keep the flow going. Tightens up at the second apex and just kisses the curb. That was a good hook up of the apex there from Togo.
Yeah, it's looking a good lap so far. We'll have to see if he does better than that first lap. Obviously, Kane Lasky, yeah, top 5 last time out at Spa, and looking pretty solid for another top 5 here so far.
We'll see if he can hold on to it towards the end of the session. Well, he's just been pipped to third. Timo Kagalainen finally gets a time in, and he slots into third place for the time being. Togo Hisada, though, through the Casio triangle, keeps it nice and clean. trying his best to get the power down and keep it as tight as possible. Will this be an improvement? 2-minute 1.906, so he gains 200ths, but it's not enough to take pole from Courtenimi.
Toby actually improved there to a 2:01.4 as well.
Excellent stuff there, and taking a look at car number 10, Laust Olsen on cameras here, and be able to get a view into his real-life racing setup. I wonder how many racing books are on that bookshelf.
I would expect many if he's got them on display for us in the background here.
He seems to be keeping it nice and clean. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to set a second time. There's just not enough time left in the session. Only under 40 seconds now, and he's not even halfway around the lap at the moment, so he's going to have to settle for his current position, which is 12th as things stand. Kane Lasky improves again, 2:02.458 to 5th place. As we check out Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado in 27th place, and I think he's not going to be able to make it to the end of this second lap here. Just not enough time, 10 seconds, and then we'll be going to the grid. So he will have to settle for that 27th place, but the final 3 spots on the grid still Schindler, Vila and Temeladri, not setting times here. Well, that is the end of the session, and we will go green very shortly for the Grand Prix Legends Series here at Suzuka Circuit, and the field will be headed up on the front row by Topi Courtenimi and Togo Hisada. Angelica Pavlovsky putting in a fantastic time there to take 3rd in the late stages of qualifying. She's going to start alongside Timo Karjalainen. Kane Lasky starts alongside Javier Sanchez in row 3. Timu Vasquilcampi alongside John Olsen in 7th and 8th. The top 10 rounded out by Sebastian Tixier and Jorge Nieva.
Mira Hizaki and Laust Olsen, the driver we saw on camera, they're lining up in 11th and 12th. Nolan Smith and Chris Murakami in 13th and 14th. Antonio Maurice and Rob Swindles in 15th and 16th. Sasha Wilkman back there in 17th. And Matthew Mawalski in 18th, with Colton Conover and Jan Lehman rounding out the top 20.
Michael Grissinger in car 22 starts 21st alongside Bill Wright. Then it's Randy Hoff and Eugenio Massa in 23rd and 24th. Gary Ho and Rolly Wallbank on row 13, with Salgado and Saunders on row 14. Top 30 rounded out by Magnus Einarsson and Pedro Temeladri, the first of our drivers to not set times. In the final row of the grid, Edu Vila and Michael Schindler, cars 24 and 32. We're getting very close now to the green flag dropping, and there's plenty of space here on the grid at Suzuka. A lovely wide front straight here at the Japanese venue, but of course a lot of drivers may have trouble getting these cars off the line. Togo Hisada did not get the best run off the line at Spa last week. He'll be hoping that he'll be able to get the power down properly and challenge Courtenimi for the lead coming into turn 1. Only 10 seconds to go on the gridding timer now, and we'll be able to go for a brilliant 17-lap race here at Suzuka Circuit. There it is. The deadline has been reached. If you're not on the grid by now, you're not getting on it. The revs rise, and we are green at Suzuka. It's a good start from Courtenimi, not as good of a start for Hisada, but he holds on to second. Angelica Pavlovsky immediately going defensive versus Karjalainen, but diving up the inside is Kane Lasky coming into turn 2. Oh, and they make contact in sense, spearing off the circuit there. Goodness me, that is a little bit of chaos at the start that neither of those drivers would have wanted. Timo Karjalainen will be devastated with that. He's gone right to the rear of the field, and his car is crabbing. There's heavy damage.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like Kane's going to be getting that top 5, but just unfortunate there into that second part. It just looked like he was a little bit too aggressive and just slid just out wide, and the two got together, and unfortunately both cars going around.
Correction from before, Angelica Pavlovsky is actually Roman Pavlovsky. Apologies for that one. But the race continues into Degner's 1 and 2, and Hisada is really challenging Courtenimi for the lead now. The hairpin, one of the best passing spots on the lap, but not close enough to get a move done that time around. The majority of drivers will be taking it very easy here on the first lap, and of course they are all single file, as you predicted, Christian. But a little bit of a move being made there on the exit of the hairpin in the midfield. There's quite some space happening here between drivers, but I'm seeing a battle between Laust Olsen and Chris Murakami at the moment for 10th place. Laust Olsen currently holding on to that position. He didn't get the best run through the 200R corner before Spoon, but it seems that he's sorted himself out now on the exit of the double left.
Yeah, and that 200R corner is actually quite interesting on these guys because it is a proper corner, and we've seen some different lines through there, so might actually see some passes being set up through there into Spoon later in the race. A couple of drivers going wide through 130R already, as we might have expected, but no further issues there.
Yeah, Rob Swindles in the background having a little bit of an adventure there over the AstroTurf. But now we get to proper drafting territory. You see Kortanimi already weaving to try and break the draft from Hisada. This is truly a fight for the win between these two. They're just going to have to minimize mistakes. And Pavlovsky is keeping himself very close there as well. But he ran a little bit wide in turn 2. Oh, Hisada, he's really starting to make life difficult for Kortanimi here. But he's going to have to stay behind through the first part of the S's.
Yeah, and Kortanimi obviously had a pretty big advantage in qualifying there, but this first lap and a half of the race, he's looked quite a bit more conservative than Hisada. Hisada's really just trying to get the pass done early on, it looks like.
Oh dear, that's a bit of an issue there through the S's. John Olsen doing a little bit of playing in the sand pit, and of course that would be an unsafe re-entry if he just went straight back onto the circuit, but he waits for everyone to go by before safely re-entering the track. It's a shame there for John. Hopefully he'll be able to make up a few positions towards the finish. Hisada is looking for a second Lotus 49 broadcast win. The only win that he's had in our broadcast here on GSRC is when they raced at the Indianapolis Oval. So he'll be looking for the win here, obviously, and this being his home track, it'll certainly be a sweet victory if he can pull it off.
Yeah, but this second lap, it looks like Kortanimi's kind of stretching away just a little bit. Hisada wasn't as close through 200R, and it's a Spoon there. But the front pair are definitely already pulling away from the pack. Pavlovsky is starting to actually get dropped a little bit here.
Yeah, the top two well and truly breaking away here. And I guess you could include Pavlovsky in that because there's quite a gap back to Javier Sanchez and Teemu Vasilkampi. They're battling over 4th place at the moment, and we'll see if that battle ignites a little bit more in the next couple of laps. A cloud forming over the circuit there. It'll cool down the surface slightly, might give the drivers a little bit of extra grip to work with, but Kortanimi wasting no time, setting the fastest lap of the session so far. There's a problem for Rob Swindles. I see him falling down the order there. He spun coming out of the final corner and straight back to the pits. Too much damage to continue. Looks like that's a retirement for Rob.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, but as well, let's have a look into Casio here.
So he was battling quite hard there. Was there contact with another car, or did he just loop it on the exit of the corner? Yeah, it looks like just a bit too much power down there, and of course these cars with treaded tires, once they get a bit too much slip angle on, there's not much you can do to save them. These things do run bias ply tires. They are designed to produce their best grip when sliding, but of course too much slide is simply too much. And back to the lead, I did notice that Kortanimi had a little bit of an oversteer moment coming into the first Degner, and that's brought Togo Hisada right back into the fold.
And Hisada's looked quite strong through this area of the track, so let's see if he can get a little bit closer here for maybe a pass into 130R. He's not close enough into Spoon, that's for sure.
Well, he'll certainly have the draft on the run up to 130R. Also seeing some problems for Kane Lasky. Goodness me, he is right in the thick of it, and he's just made contact with Yanni Lehman coming into Spoon. He's been sent up and over onto his roof. That is a huge incident that's happened there, and I think that might be worth a replay. It was a bit of chaos going on a bit further back. Here it is. Actually looks like there was something going on into the hairpin just before that, but Man, Kane Lasky, he's trying his best there to get the position back from Jana Lehmann. But as they came into Spoon, I'm not too sure how to call that. Lehmann did look like he went to the left a little bit, but you could argue he was simply turning in for the corner.
Yeah, that looked pretty much of a misjudgment there, but all looked like it started down into the hairpin here. Obviously, a big cluster of cars. A little bit of contact up ahead. I'm not sure who that was getting turned around into the gravel there, but that's really what started this off. And obviously, if Kane was going to make a recovery, that's over now because he's literally upside down.
That's a big shame, and Jana Lehmann is also out of the car in the pit lane as well. Jumping into the pits is Rolly Wallbank, and I get the feeling that he might have been involved in that incident somewhat. But back to our leaders. Togo Hisada still keeping himself right in the thick of it for this fight for victory, and that's a great exit from Degner too, I just saw there. Fantastic stuff. But coming into the hairpin, looks like a bit of a better run out of the corner from Topi Kortanimi. He's just able to keep Hisada ahead of him, and you see him widening the turn-in for 200R. That's continuing to benefit him. Yeah,
definitely, and I think as long as he can kind of get that good run through and into Spoon, that's still going to be a benefit. And actually, Kane is not towed back to the pits yet. It just sort of still out there on the exit of Spoon, upside down.
Well, there's obviously going to be a yellow flag in that section of the circuit at the moment, which is more advisory than anything else in the iRacing sim. But goodness me, this battle for 6 is looking quite spicy, is it not? Miro Hrajki, Sebastian Tixier, and Laust Olsen all fighting over the same piece of racetrack here, dipping wheels into the grass on the way up to 130R. Miko runs a little bit wide over the curb. It's a good run from Tixier. He's going to try and take him around the outside, coming into the Casio triangle. Gets it done by the time they get into the braking zone. Just slots ahead. Good stuff there, and you see that Laust Olsen really appreciates it too.
Yeah, it's a good move right there. Obviously, slight mistake, but still got to be able to take advantage of it. And this group of drivers are actually all the drivers who were kind of starting towards the tail end of the top 10, who've now got a possibility of a top 5. So it's worked out really nicely for them, and obviously they're now well aware that it's a battle for the top 5 and not just the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, so despite the closeness of all of these drivers, they are going to have to take care not to get too leery with each other, otherwise they could jeopardize the top 5 for the whole group. Laust Olsen here, he has a fantastic view of this three-way fight up ahead of him. It's basically a 5-way fight. There's a car behind them, Teemu Vaskilkampi in position 9 at the moment, and staying with these guys really well as they come into the Degners.
Yeah, Teemu actually started up in 7th, so he's dropped towards the back of this group now. We do have a couple other drivers who've moved up from the opposite side of things. Nieva, who's leading this group of 5, actually going defensive into the hairpin here. He started in 10th, so he's the biggest gainer out of this group of top 5. Well, bottom 5, so to speak.
Yes, up 5 positions so far, and he shares that honour with quite a few drivers like Sasha Winkelmann, Matthew Maudsley, Colton Conover, Randy Hoff, and Jeff Saunders, as it looks like Tixier just making his way past Nieva, coming into Spoon through 130R, and that's going to be another position loss there for Jorge. Miro Hrajki making his way past, and a little bit of side-by-side action. Laust Olsen, he's had to give Teemu Vaskilkampi a bit of room around the outside on the exit here, and will they be able to take it through 130R? Yes, Vaskilkampi lifts off. No sense in trying to go nose to tail with another driver in these cars through there, but Olsen, man, he really rounded up the exit. He's going to try and nab Nieva here, coming into the Casio triangle. They run side by side, but Olsen, there he goes, round the outside. Slight technical issues there for Jorge Nieva, but well past him was Laust Olsen, and it looks like Vaskilkampi's going to get him here into turn 1.
Yeah, you see him on the inside here, and it's not an easy pass. Actually backs out of that one. I'm a bit surprised.
Well, I think it would make sense, you know, in these cars with no downforce, grooved tyres, not much in the way of modern racing technology at these drivers' disposal. Oh dear, that was probably a big overcorrection moment for Teemu Vaskilkampi. A little bit of oversteer at the wrong time in the S's can ruin your entire run.
Yeah, good job to keep it off that inside wall there, though. You see him backing out of this move into turn 1. I'm really surprised he did that, but obviously then we saw his little issues into the S's later on, and well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's just a little bit of lack of confidence in the car, and you see here it started to get away from him, and he had to go for that correction, and actually nearly ended up with the overcorrection there. So yeah, doesn't look too comfortable in the car right now, but obviously did qualify very well and started up in 7th.
Well, he's still got plenty of time to try and make these positions back, but once again, he is going to have to be careful about it. There hasn't been much of a change for the lead meanwhile. If anything, Topi Kortonimi has started to gap Togo Hisada ever so slightly as we check in with them down the back stretch. Kortonimi, it seems, once he gets into the rhythm and gets a few laps in, he is nigh unstoppable. But Hisada is... he has the benefit of the slipstream. He's able to stay within range. So, you know, if he looks after his tyres, if he makes sure that he's right where he needs to be at the end, he could still potentially go for it in the late stages of the race, as Kortonimi did on on Ovi last week at Spa-Francorchamps. The top 3 have well and truly broken away from the rest of the field. I mean, there's some huge gaps going on here. Javier Sanchez is all on his own in 4th place at the moment. Plenty of time between him and the cars in front, not to mention the cars behind. It's, I'd say, another 6 or 7 seconds back to Sebastian Tixier, as that is a bit of a problem for Sascha Winkelmann, and looks to be at the exit of the final corner.
Yeah, a really horrible place to end up pointing the absolute wrong way. It looks like he's trying to get down pit road.
Perhaps trying to get off the racing surface as well. There we go. Oh, yeah, have a look at that car's behavior there. It's just crawling sideways at the moment. What on earth happened to Sascha Winkelmann here? A little bit deep into the Casio triangle, and he just caught the curb at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Oh, looked at a
who
car
else
too.
was involved?
Goodness, I'm going to go and check that.
That curb on the inside there is pretty notorious for kind of catching you out if you're trying to put the power down. And you really do want to kind of cut across it to sort of straighten out the exit, but especially in a car like this, it will bite hard if you get it wrong.
It was Colton Conover, car 31, who collected Winkelmann there. Just the complete wrong place to be on the outside of the final corner when a car's spinning in front of you. Conover has lost his nose as a result of that. And of course, Winkelmann with heavy suspension damage. It was the alignment of the car was not completely out of whack. Here's the battle for 9th. Chris Murakami, Nolan Smith, and the recovering Teemu Vaskelkampi, and oh dear, too wide into 130R, surely not. Will Vaskelkampi back out of this one? No, he's gone right off the circuit there, but he manages to take the position, and the battle continues. A car having some issues there. That's Murakami, actually, that had some issues coming out of 130R, so goodness me, these battles in the midfield are absolutely wild at the moment. It's mainly defined by which drivers can make the least mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really the nature of this car, and I don't think this battle is over yet.
Oh, coming into turn 1, Vaskelkampi trying on the inside, but no, they both run slightly wide of the racing surface. Nolan Smith is able to keep him behind. Excellent fighting between those two, just managing to keep it clean, but now it's all about the run through the S's here, and Smith, I can see his car lurching from apex to apex. He's more focusing on throttle out of the corners. Meanwhile, Vaskelkampi, he's doing very well on entry. See how they go. Coming up to the hairpin, whether or not Vaskelkampi can get a good run out of Degna 2.
Yeah, and Teemu's car just looks generally a whole lot more nervous than pretty much anybody he's been battling with. Nolan has made a mistake. He's gone completely across the inside of Degna 2 there and got very, very lucky to pull that up before he got into the outside wall.
Yeah, very lucky indeed. Looked like he actually caught some of the light green AstroTurf on the outside of the corner. The curbs at the Degnas are ones you have to watch out for in any car, let alone a Lotus 49. This is going to be the on board here from Nolan Smith. And you'll just see the left rear catch the AstroTurf right there, and the car is just sent into a slide. He does recover. He does manage to keep it out of the wall. Very well recovered there, but still a couple of positions lost, and he certainly wouldn't want that.
Yeah, absolutely, and unfortunately that takes away one of those battles that we had out on track. And yeah, for the drivers in the top four.
Hisada's in the lead? When did that happen? And, oh goodness me, Cortinimi's going to try and get him again here at turn 1. Hisada just slightly later on the brakes, but he has to stay wide to let the number 1 car have some space on the inside. Topi Cortinimi takes the lead back. I get the feeling that Hisada might have outbraked him at the chicane on the previous lap.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to see if we can get a replay of that, but I mean, we thought that Hisada might have been waiting until the end, but definitely doesn't look that way now.
Oh, wow. What a move this was, actually. I can't wait to see this. It was on the way into 130R where the big move was made, but he also battled through Spoon as well. This is going to be a fantastic replay to watch here. You see Hisada just trying to round up Cortinimi through 200R. Again, you mentioned that Hisada is very strong through this sequence of corners, and there he goes with the big dive at Spoon, trying to unsettle Cortinimi, and Topi manages to grab the line back through the second part of Spoon. But watch this. This is going to be fantastic on board with Hisada, wheel to wheel coming down the back stretch. And it's not that often you see a move around the outside at 130R like Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher in 2006, but fantastic run through the corner there from Togo Hisada, really showing Topi Cortinimi that he means business.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I really thought he would have backed out of that being on the outside through 130R, and it wasn't even really like he was significantly ahead going into 130R either. He was pretty much dead even, so yeah, a lot of respect though. That's really good racing. That's absolutely what you want to see.
Yeah, plenty of space given by both drivers, which is exactly what we want to see. There's been a problem for Sebastian Tixier, meanwhile. It looks like a disconnection for him, and he was running in 5th at the time, so that's a big shame for Sebastian. He is going to be a retirement from this one, as is almost Pedro Temiladri, it seemed. But it looks like he sorted himself out. Laust Olsen, meanwhile, goodness me, he has got his hands full, or rather I should say that about Miro Hrajki. He's getting pressured massively.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is for 5th place.
Oh no, I've seen some further issues for Rolly Wallbank in the S's. He is very slow, and it looks like he might have had a spin coming out of turn 1, but it looks like no other cars involved for the time being. We'll keep our eyes trained here on car 10, Laust Olsen, as he tries to nab 5th place from Miro Hrajki. You see the big change of direction there from Miro. He seems very confident in how his car handles through this section.
Yeah, and both these drivers started essentially next to each other in the race, so they've been running with each other the whole time here. We're actually just past halfway now, so still, you know, quite a bit of time to go, and obviously for Laust Olsen here. Ooh, a little bit wide there through Degna 1.
Oh, and very wide through Degna 2
very wide
for Laust Olsen. Oh boy, manages to keep it out of the wall though. Good job there, Laust, but we'll see if Jorge Nieva has anything to say about this as he rounds him up. Nieva, of course, losing a lot of positions in the early laps in that very tight battle, which is spaced out quite a bit now, but he could potentially gain one of those positions back. I always enjoy watching these onboards from the noses. Really gives you a sense for the pitch and roll of these things.
Yeah, and that's something that you really don't get with a lot of the modern cars, and that's why I think this car in particular is very, very fun to drive. You get a whole lot more movement from it, and it can be a little bit overwhelming to start with. See, Hisada's still looking for that move down into turn 1 there. But yeah, definitely the car itself, under braking, a ton of pitch change and a ton of dive onto the nose, and it does make for a really, really unique driving experience. And obviously the tires, the rear tires quite wide, front tires definitely not very wide, so another kind of interesting deal where it drives, I think the closest modern equivalent to something like this is probably going to be something like the V8 Supercar or even say the NASCAR Cup car, just in terms of how much power it's got versus how much grip it has. But very, very, very fun cars to drive. Certainly if anybody's watching who hasn't given this a go, I would absolutely recommend it. It's one of my favorite cars that we have on iRacing.
Yes, I've certainly seen that you have a proficiency in this thing, Christian. I remember in the Majors series, you were one of the wild cards for the international region. I think it was at the Milwaukee Mile Oval race a couple of years ago, driving for Kinetic, and certainly looked very enjoyable from the outside. I mean, this car got a massive tyre update and all that jazz a season or so back, and it's transformed the feel of the car, and the drivers had to get used to it throughout the course of last season, but the majority of them have now gotten their heads around it, and it's generally considered one of the best cars on the iRacing service. So yeah, I would endorse the Lotus 49. I remember back when it first came out, actually, I did a few laps in it, and at the time I was trying to go a bit faster in the Australian touring cars, and after driving the 49, it was dead easy.
Yeah, I can definitely believe that. That's for sure. Obviously, it's quite interesting to see that there is some comparisons sort of across the board. I know obviously when say the Road Pro Series transitioned from the McLaren Formula 1 car over into the Porsche Cup, it was actually a lot of the Australian V8 Supercars drivers turned out to be very, very good when that transition happened. So yeah, it's fun to me that you see which cars kind of line up that way. As you say, the 49, the V8 Supercar, if you put them side by side, you wouldn't think they were the same. And obviously there are differences and whatnot, but just the kind of the approach you have to take is actually reasonably similar.
Yeah, it's all about smoothness, managing the weight transfer, and trying to minimize oversteer as much as possible. Goodness me, Hesada is very confident on the brakes coming into Degna 2, almost bumper to bumper with Topi Kortenimi. Well, we now get to the part of the circuit where Hesada seems to be stronger, and maybe a bit of oversteer at the apex for Kortenimi. Didn't get the best of runs out of the corner, and they are nose to tail. Oh, goodness me, big slide from Togo Hesada, but well held there.
I definitely thought he was going to go for that until that slide happened, and I don't think it's over yet. It looks like he could have a good run out of Spoon here.
Well, they both clamber over the inside curb. Kortenimi widening the exit a little bit more over those exit curbs, but Hesada straight into the slipstream, and he doesn't have enough of a run to go for the move in 130R, but we'll see how good of an exit he gets from the corner. Still not close enough to really go for the move, but Kortenimi, he does go ever so slightly defensive, just letting Togo Hesada know, listen, if you want to get by me, you're not going to have a particularly easy time of it. Well, let's see if turn 1 has anything to say about that. Draft braking once again, the weave is on. Kortenimi's going to stay defensive here coming into turn 1, but Togo Hesada around the outside to turn 1 briefly takes the lead, but Kortenimi has the inside line and the extra speed at the apex, gets the power down, but Hesada, he almost tried to force the issue there, but a little bit of oversteer put paid to that.
Yeah, it looked like he could have got that run down into the first part of the S's, but just wasn't able to put the power down as well, and obviously not able to maintain that overlap as he got there.
Well, it's looking like a very similar story to Spa, but Kortenimi is not battling with Overtrengerade this time. He is battling with Togo Hesada, who was initially a factor at Spa until he bogged down at the start, and ultimately had to settle for 4th place at the end, but he's going for the win here. These guys are starting to come up to some lap traffic. Pedro Temiladri, he's back out on the racetrack after getting some damage repaired. He's had a very rough night, as Pedro. His nose is looking slightly crumpled. I would hope that he isn't going to make life too hard for the leaders when they eventually catch up to him. But of course, they'll be more interested in each other than they are in any lapped traffic. Let's see how they go then into Spoon for the 13th time. Cortinimi straight for the apex, maybe slightly wide, but he does hook up the apex nice and late. And there goes Pedro lifting off to let the leaders go. Good stuff, executed cleanly, but not the best of exits for Topi Cortinimi. He had to alter his line on the exit, and Asada's going to go around the outside in 130R again. Yes, he is, and he goes off the circuit. Is he going to keep the position? Is he going to go for the move coming into the Casio triangle? He has to get off on the brakes. He's offline. There's not as much grip there. And Cortinimi keeping the lead, but for how long? Hesada's on a mission.
Yeah, Hesada definitely doesn't look like he's waiting to the end at all. He's wanting to get this pass done. I doubt he's going to be able to drive away, though, as we see him again going to the outside. He loves these outside passes. I don't think I've seen him try the inside at all yet.
Well, the inside seems to have always been blocked by Topi Cortinimi. He certainly knows that it's very difficult to do, but there we go. No oversteer for Hesada that time. Briefly going side by side into the S's, but Cortinimi with the advantage there. It's very difficult to pull a move off into that first left-hander of the S's.
Yeah, and really through the whole S section, it's just not a too wide area, so I would have been very impressed to see if they'd have managed to stay side by side through that left and then into the subsequent right, because that's a place where we've seen incidents happen in the past.
Well, they both keep it nice and clean over the curbs at Degner. And a bit of a better exit for Cortinimi that time, but goodness me, they are certainly pushing it out on the grass, the edges of those tyres. Certainly getting a bit of green on them at the best of times. Let's see if Hesada will be able to do anything about Cortinimi's defense this time. Cortinimi is certainly having to work for this win.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to have to hold on to this for about another 3 1/4 laps here.
Yeah, the race has flown by. We're almost at the end, aren't we? So it's really getting to crunch time now for Togo Hesada. If he wants this second GSRC Lotus 49 broadcast victory. Still in the slipstream, there's going to be no side-by-side action through 130R this time round, but he'll certainly be thinking about the exit from the Casio triangle. Really got to feed the throttle on coming out of this corner and even have to lift a little bit. Big oversteer moment from Topi Cortinimi. That might have been the chance that Togo Hesada needs, but Cortinimi going straight to the inside once again. There we go. Hesada almost wise to it, but there just wasn't enough space near the pit wall. Side by side into turn 1 again, and Hesada this time decides to slot in behind coming into turn 2.
Yeah, I thought he was going to try and hope for the overlap there, hoping that Topi had driven in too deep into the first part of the corner. It definitely looked like Hesada was trying to get onto the inside into turn 1 there. I feel like there was just about enough gap to the pit wall, but would have been a very, very risky move, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would have been Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello at Hungary 2010, I think, as the battling continues further back in the field. Teemu Vaskilampi, there we go, I got his last name right this time, around the outside, coming into turn 1, making up those positions. About time too.
Yeah, it looks like he has got to grips with his car now, and is on that recovery drive. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for him to get up to Nieva, but well, he might as well give it a shot, right?
Yeah, of course, the race isn't over until it's over. Nieva, a corner or so ahead at the moment, but one mistake from Jorge will bring Teemu back into the fold. Nieva, he's just lapping on his own at the moment. He's essentially trying to do qualifying laps, trying to catch back up to Laust Olsen. Actually, remember last time we checked in with those two, they were pretty close, so there's obviously been a mistake somewhere for Jorge Nieva in the intervening time. But Olsen, he's still got Miro Hrashki to worry about up in front of him, trying to get a top 5 finish here.
Yeah, and I think it's within reach, especially with a mistake from Miro.
Nice clean lines through Spoon. They're not climbing all over the curb in between the corners. Here we go, front straight again for our leaders, and surprise, surprise, Topi Cortinimi breaking the draft. Hesada not quite close enough to make it side by side into turn 1 this time. Maybe he's out of steam, maybe he's looking for another area of the circuit to attack.
Yeah, he is running out of laps, though. Obviously, now onto 2 to go. Very aggressive there into the S's. Almost got right into the back of Topi there.
Yeah, he's pushing it as they go into the anti-banked turn, as it's called. This long right-hander, bit off camber. You've got to keep it tight to open up the entry here into Dunlop. And then the run down what is effectively a short straight. It's completely flat out in most cars. Nolan Smith, remember, he suffered some issues early on, and he's trying to recover, trying to go up the inside of 9th place Chris Murakami. Murakami isn't doing too bad. He's up 5 positions, and certainly looking to keep that here.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers here in the top 10 who've had some really good runs, and some quite conservative driving, I would say, but it's absolutely paid off. Nieva's one of them. We saw him up at in 5th place for quite a while. Hisada actually making a look here down into Spoon. Wasn't able to make anything of it, but he's definitely going to have a run to 130R this time out.
Oh, yes, he is, and they both put the power down very nicely, our 2 leaders. Hisada is right on it here. And, oh, then the defense isn't quite there for Topi Kortanimi, so up the inside of 130R this time will be Togo Hisada. Unfortunately, he's just not able to get on the throttle when he wants to. Kortanimi with the advantage. He keeps the lead coming into the Casio Triangle, but this is where it really counts. They're coming up to white flag here at Suzuka. Lap 17 of 17 begins 3, 2, 1 now. And to the inside, to the defensive line, Topi Kortanimi trying his best to break the draft, and it has succeeded for him so far. This has been a great defensive drive from car number 1.
Yeah, he's really had to work for it. Hisada's been basically within half a second of him the entire race. Obviously has been ahead of him a couple of points, but Topi's been able to get back by, and yeah, this will, I mean, either of them win this, this will be a thoroughly well-deserved race win.
Well, we wait with bated breath to see whether or not the Japanese driver can beat the Finn. Fantastic battling all race long from these two. And oh, you see he's working the wheel just as hard as he always has, Togo Hisada, even backing it into the Degners a little bit. This has been an absolutely astonishing drive from both of these drivers. But now we'll see if there's the move being made at Spoon. The issue here for Hisada is if he goes for the move at Spoon and is leading coming out of it, then there's every chance that Kortanimi will be able to take it right back coming into 130R. It seems that he's not quite close enough to really benefit and big oversteer through 200R as well. This might be victory falling apart a bit for Togo Hisada, but a slight bit of oversteer again on entry from Topi Kortanimi. Of course, you do want that a bit in this car. Oh, goodness me, here we go. This is it. Big draft. Almost middle of the road there for Topi Kortanimi. Up the inside goes Togo Hisada. He has to get on the brakes, though. They're side by side through 130R. This is the battle for the win on the final lap here. Kortanimi stays defensive. Coming into the Casio Triangle. Squeezing him. Contact! Contact! The leaders have made contact! And they stop on the circuit, but there's plenty of space back to 3rd place. And Togo Hisada doing the sportsman-like thing and letting Kortanimi go. It almost went completely wrong at the last corner, but there we go. Topi Kortanimi takes the win at Suzuka. Togo Hisada has to settle for 2nd, but he had a red-hot go of it.
Yeah, I think he was kind of there into that into that second part of the chicane there, but maybe just not enough, and obviously very unfortunate to start looping Topi around. But that was really cool to see that he just redressed the position immediately. So I like to see that. It's definitely the way I want to race, and I'd be very actually happy to see that if that had happened to me. So yeah, want to give a big thanks to Hisada for that move.
There we go, Nolan Smith. He was trying so hard versus Chris Murakami to try and get 9th place, but looping it out of the final corner. Is he going to be able to keep 10th? I think he just managed to do that. Sasha Winkleman wasn't for position, so yes, Nolan Smith does keep 10th place there. Matthew Maudsley with 7 positions gained. Fantastic drive there to finish in 11th place. Eugenio Massa trying his best to chase down Randy Hoff here in the final stages of the final lap, but just not able to get it done. So there we go. Last couple of drivers will be coming across the start-finish line very soon. The last driver on the lead lap, Magnus Einarsson, is making his way into the Casio Triangle now, and then we'll be able to get the official classified race results. But before that, we will step aside very briefly here on the Global Sim Racing channel. When we come back, we'll have our race results and interviews. Well, that was an absolutely fantastic race we just saw at Suzuka. Brilliant stuff and a great battle for the win between Topi Kortenniemi and Togo Hisada. They take the first 2 positions despite a little bit of an incident at the end. It's Roman Pavlovsky who comes home in 3rd place. A very strong drive there, maintaining 3rd position. Javier Sanchez comes home in 4th place. Laust Olsen manages to get the top 5 finish he was looking for. A brilliant drive from him, as with Miro Hrashki in 6th. Jorge Nieva comes home in 7th place. Teemu Vaskilampi ending up losing 1 position, unfortunately. Had some dramas early on, but recovers to finish in 8th. And then it's Chris Murakami and Nolan Smith who round out the top 10.
Matthew Maudsley with a good run from 18th up to 11th, and Antonio Reese behind him in 12th. Michael Grisner Actually, a great race for him, up 8 spots, finishing 13th with Bill Wright just behind him. Another driver basically followed him up through the field in 14th. Randy Houth in 15th, Eugenio Massa in 16th, Jeff Saunders 28th to 17th, so a good race by him. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado, another good drive up through the field, finishing 18th. Magnus Anderson, the last driver on the lead lap back there in 19th with Rowley Wellbank. We saw him have some issues, but able to pick up a top 20 today.
John Olsen didn't quite have the same amount of luck. He is classified 2 laps down. Pedro Temeladri managing to get back out on circuit and get a classified finish 3 laps down. Then we truly get into retirement territory. Very unfortunate night for the likes of Sasha Winkelmann, Janne Lehmann. The contact with Kane Lasky early on putting an end to his race. Edu Vila 25th, and Sebastian Tixier with connection issues classified 26th. Colton Conover ended up collecting a spinning car coming out of the final corner and has to settle for 27th. Gary Ho also retiring, as did Rob Swindells and of course Kane Lasky, who ended up on his roll hoop at Spoon. Timo Karjalainen 16 laps down, and Michael Schindler as well, not making it past the first lap. A big shame for a lot of drivers, but the opposite of a big shame for Topi Kortenniemi, who joins us in the commentary box now. Welcome, Topi. Congratulations on your win. It was a heck of a battle with Togo Hisada, though. He was pressuring you all the way.
You know, he was faster all week. He was faster tonight. I was putting in purple sectors with him in my tail, and he was still there and making moves. It was so hard to defend against him. he was faster today, but I don't know if something happened in his quali or something. But yeah, it was a good race.
Certainly was from our perspective as well, but really good defensive drive from you tonight. Suzuka, of course, very strong on the draft, and that certainly helped Togo somewhat, but you managed to place your car in exactly the right places at exactly the right time. What was your thinking behind it?
No, it was pure luck.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, it was second for you at Spa last week, but you've gotten the win here, and with Ove not here tonight, certainly that's some good championship points for you.
Yeah, it is. It was a fun race, but from now on, I'll probably be focusing on the Finnish sim racing national championships to the qualifiers. So it might be that I won't be making many races in the upcoming months.
Oh, well, that's perfectly fine, Topi. Either way, it is top honours for you here at Suzuka. Congratulations from us once again. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for your victory?
You guys, of course, and everybody watching, and the Finnish guys from the 79 community will join today.
Certainly they will. Topi Kortenniemi taking a fantastic victory here tonight at Suzuka International Racing Course. The next driver we're going to chat to, Laus Olsen, a dramatic top 5 finish apparently, Christian.
Yeah, I was actually just going back and looking because he was running his 6th spot with 2 to go, and I could see that he was quite close to Miro, so I went back and looked, and yeah, a wicked outside pass down into 130R with 2 to go, right? That must have been pretty cool to take top 5 that way.
Yeah, that was quite exciting. It's with your heart pumping when you are going side by side into 130R. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely, and a great race. I mean, you obviously started outside of the top 10. You were in 10th by the end of the first lap. Obviously, that little altercation that happened up ahead helped. But then there was kind of that fight that was just for the top 5, pretty much, with that huge group of cars. And people were just dropping in and out of it the whole way through the race. But obviously, with 2 to go, you'd work yourself up into 6th spot. Then to get the top 5. Can you kind of talk us through the whole strategy of how you kind of do the whole 17 laps around here, because it's quite a long time in a car as difficult as this, and just trying to minimize those mistakes, knowing that that's kind of the way to to get those good results in the 49?
Yeah, it's quite difficult in this car. There are several places where you are accelerating and turning at the same time, and quite easy to lose the rear. So in the beginning, it's also quite difficult to overtake on this track. I couldn't really get the power down out of the slow corners. And then I think I overheated my tires in the beginning, sliding too much, and it took forever to bring them back in. At the time, I lost, I think, 3 seconds to Miro near the end due to a mistake I made. And actually, I never thought I would catch up to him again, but it looked like he was struggling a bit in the end. So yeah, with 2 to go, I was at his rear again. And then he made a mistake allowing me to go up side by side into 130 hours. So yeah, without that mistake, I don't think I would have passed him, but yeah, you never know. So yeah, thanks to Miro for a great race and for giving room in 130 hours.
It's definitely a cool pass to see down into 130R. And next week, kind of a similar-ish sort of track in terms of the old school feel. So Brands Hatch Grand Prix, you kind of got any thoughts on how that's going to be the race? Do you think it's going to be similar to Suzuka, or think it's going to be a whole different challenge again?
I think it's a quite technical and difficult track in this car too. So I think it will be, for me, it will be quite a challenge like Suzuka is. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a fun track, but it's going to be a challenge.
We'll definitely be looking out for you next week, and thank you for being on camera for us as well. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
This community in general, and thanks to Joe for the Christmas story. That was yeah, Joe is a great storyteller, so thanks a lot, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, I'm sure he'll appreciate that. But thank you for coming to chatting with us.
Thanks.
Well, what a brilliant night of racing, brilliant morning of racing, I suppose, for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. Certainly nighttime for me, but goodness me, I really enjoyed that for my first ever proper Lotus 49 broadcast. I mean, Christian, this series just continues to come on that trend of bringing fantastic, fast, fair, but clean racing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lotus 49 is obviously a car that just to drive demands a lot of respect. It's very uncompromising. It heavily punishes mistakes, and I think that also transfers through into the racing that we see as well. And everybody knows that. The couple of races I've actually ran in the 49 series, that's always been my impression too, that everybody racing it knows that it's a very difficult car to race with, knows that it's going to move around, and obviously from that, there's a lot of space given. The racing is always very, very clean. You can absolutely guarantee that if there is any contact, it's always that it's a mistake. It's never anybody trying to kind of, put a squeeze on or anything like that. So absolutely just awesome racing in this series and car, and it's great to see that the community has kind of really rallied around the car, made the official time slots, and there's even more time slots now going official throughout the week. So it's very, very cool to see that the car has a pretty healthy following now.
There's life in this old girl yet. Well, it's gonna be time for us to wrap things up here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We hope that you've enjoyed this night of racing, and there's certainly going to be plenty more to come throughout 2022 Season 1. We want to give our thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks must go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Christian, Joe and Dougie. I'm Maurice Gardner. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the bottom of the screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com facebook.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel here as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race in the Grand Prix Legends series is going to be Brands Hatch, Saturday, January the 1st, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, like that one just gone, Lotus 79 at Road Atlanta. That's coming up in just under 2 hours time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. But until then, we say race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.